So if you have kids or grandkids in your life that you would love for them to grow up to have a healthy relationship with food and their bodies, then this episode is for you. So tune in to discover the weird and sometimes gross techniques I'm experimenting with to raise healthy eaters. So, welcome to Joyful Eating, episode 245. And this week we're talking about 7 weird ways I'm raising healthy eaters. But before we get into that, the best bite I had recently, I love Brussels sprouts, right? It's so mad to me. When I was a kid, when mum cooked Brussels sprouts, literally thought she was punishing us. I was like, we must have been doing something bad. Mum's bringing out the Brussels sprouts again, right? Whereas now it's like every time I see them in the markets, I'm like, I have to buy them. It's like, I can't walk past Brussels sprouts. Anyway, so the way I love to cook them, so I halve them and then chop them put them on a roasting tray with a bit of oil, roast them. And the secret with Brussels sprouts is you got to roast them until they're really well browned and really soft. And actually, what my mom used to do, she used to boil them. So don't boil your sprouts, roast them instead. And then as soon as they come out of the oven, as soon as you're happy, then drizzle over a little bit of fish sauce and a little bit of some sort of vinegar. I usually use apple cider or sherry vinegar, and just the umami from the fish sauce like balances, and the salt like balances out any bitterness that you get in the Brussels sprouts, and so they taste sweeter, and just this, and then you've got the vinegar to add the freshness, and yeah, they are so good. And I usually have them with some protein, so I love them with poached eggs and then a sauce, and yeah, they are the business. And actually they're really good with nuts too, so some pine nuts or walnuts, whatever nuts you've got are good. Okay, so let's talk about my weird my weird plan for my children. So first of all, I'm going to share my counterintuitive approach to children's nutrition, and then I'm going to share 7 weird ways I'm raising healthy eaters, and then I've got a fun invitation for you at the end. So my approach to nutrition is very different to the mainstream, right? So mainstream nutritionists, they'll eat more vegetables, don't eat processed food, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, all well and good. However, I really feel like that doesn't help people in the real world navigate real life. And by glorifying, and we'll talk more about this when I talk about what I'm doing, my weird ways, by glorifying healthy food and you're putting it on this pedestal and then having these unhealthy foods that we should be avoiding, it just creates this unhealthy relationship with food. So I won't go into the why of that. I'll share what I'm doing to counter that. But yeah, so my approach to nutrition is that, of course, yeah, it's better to eat fresh stuff, but it doesn't matter if you don't, because how much you're eating is actually more important than what you're eating. And that is so true, right? Because I remember used to eat, like I've always been, not always, but in my adult years, very conscious about the types of food that I'm eating, right? And eating a lot of, I love vegetables and I love protein. Like I'm eating a lot of all the good stuff. I love cooking. So like eating, I hardly have any processed food, right? But I was still eating more than my body needed. So I was eating, I wasn't listening to my body. I was eating too much, and it was a problem for my weight, and it didn't feel good in my body, right? It was like too much of a good thing is still too much. It's really important to get that quantity piece right, whether you're having a lot of processed food or not a lot of processed food, like the amount that we're eating makes a difference. Because if you're having cookies, if you're having one cookie, here and there or once a day, that's very different to your, like how your body's going to be compared to if you're eating like a whole bag of cookies multiple times a week. So this quantity piece is so overlooked in nutrition. Like it's all about, oh, just avoid these bad foods and eat the good foods and you'll be fine. No, it's like how much we're eating really matters. And so that's what I'm passing on to my children is like, yeah, it's fine to have cookies. It's fine to have all these, to have cake, to have lolly snakes that they love. It's fine to have these things, but you just don't want to have too much of them, right? And that's very simple then. It's right. It's just like one thing to focus on is, oh yeah, when I'm eating, I listen to my body. So I just get the right amount of food. And then, of course, we do talk about protein and how important that is for growing muscles and growing, if you want to grow taller, because they're interested in that being tween boys. So we do talk about the function of different types of nutrients and how, yeah, making sure we're getting some protein is important. And then the other counterintuitive thing I do is I don't stress about them having enough vegetables. Because if I think back to my childhood, like we didn't actually eat that many vegetables. Yeah, mum would do the meat and three veg some nights, but often we just would have pasta that would just, maybe there was some onion in the bolognese sauce and that was it. And that ended up being fine. So, and I really think that because the other thing that happened in my childhood was we were forced to eat stuff. So when there was Brussels sprouts, we had to eat the Brussels sprouts, or there was no dessert, or we had to eat the peas, and you weren't allowed to leave the table until you'd cleaned your plate, which we'll talk about that in a second. But yeah, so actually forcing me to eat those vegetables, I still have issues with peas from being forced to eat them. So I actually think it's better for children not to be forced to eat vegetables and to just let them choose, knowing that as they age, there's plenty of time in their adult life to learn to love vegetables. And just by me modeling that this is how adults eat, right? Is that we love veggies and we love protein and we don't eat lolly snakes all day. And just by modeling that behavior, I think that's really more helpful than trying to force vegetables down their throat when they're not receptive to it, right? And also that their taste buds are really sensitive to bitter flavors that are in Brussels sprouts. So they can't appreciate how their perception of how Brussels sprouts taste is very different to how mine taste. So I don't want to be ruining Brussels sprouts in the future for them by pushing it on them now. So that's it for nutrition. It's like how much is more important. Yeah, great if you do want to eat some veggies, but you're not going to be forced to eating them. And try and make sure you're getting some protein in each meal. And so that's how I approach nutrition with them. And then in terms of the 7 weird ways I'm raising healthy eaters, so I've alluded to a couple of these. Let's go in deeper. So the first one is I'm raising clean plate rebels. So we are not members of the clean plate club in our house, and I never force them to finish everything on their plate. I do have a boundary with them, so I do make it very clear that if you're leaving the table, if you're leaving food behind, you need to feel satisfied because I'm not going to be going and cooking something for you if you get hungry after dinner. Kitchen's closed after this. And these days that doesn't happen, that they go, oh, and leave stuff and then they're like hungry half an hour later, because we've had that rule in place. But in the early days, there was times where they'd be like, oh yeah, and they'd come back half an hour later and wanting more food. And I would just be like, no. And sometimes it felt a bit mean, but I was like, no, they've got to learn. And so, yeah, maybe they did go to bed hungry a few times, but they learned that pretty quickly to let themselves feel satisfied at mealtime. So, and the reason for this, why this is so important, is because I'm encouraging them to listen to their bodies. And so I'm not ever saying eat more protein, finish those veggies, you have to finish your plate, because if I just get them to check in, how's your tummy feeling? Do you feel like you're satisfied? Have you had enough before they leave the table? And I trust them to know what's enough for them, rather than me thinking, oh, they should be eating like 20 grams of protein per whatever out of body mass. No, it's just like, let's let their bodies do that. And so teaching them that from the beginning. And I think that's one of the most important things you can give your children, is that confidence to know that they can trust their bodies and that they can stop when they feel that sense of satisfaction. And I would probably, if my mission will, if all the children in the world now learn this skill, then I'm going to be out of a job because I won't have to coach them when they're in their 50s because they've got these weight problems because they're not listening to their bodies. So maybe which is great. I hope that happens, because I'll definitely be ready to retire then. But yeah, so this is so important. Raising clean plate rebels. Okay, so we've got 7 ways. So that's number one. Number two, and this might gross you out, and of course, take it or leave it, right? Take what works, what you feel inspired to implement in your life. I'm not saying you have to do any of this, but I don't get them to wash their hands before eating. So, and I actually, if we've got people here and they're like, oh, come on, kids, everyone go and wash their hands. Like all the kids wash their hands. I don't go, no, you boys have to have dirty hands. I don't interfere them. But on the day-to-day basis, that's just not part of our culture. So my Irishman washes his hands before eating dinner. He's the one in the family that has the most gut health issues, just saying. But the boys and I, we don't. So yeah. And the reason for that is because and of course, it was different during COVID. If we were out exposed to people, we would wash our hands when we came home. And I do get them to wash their hands. Like, we're very militant about washing our hands after we go to the bathroom. But apart from that, I think the reason I want them to have dirty hands is, or not dirty hands, but like to not be super clean is because it's actually good for them and good for our gut microbiome to be exposed to more bacteria rather than less. So by not washing our hands, we're just giving that little bit of extra exposure, which can help with diversity in the gut. Okay, so that's my theory anyway. So number three, in terms of my weird ways, is I let them eat dessert first if they want. So actually, this doesn't like if we're having ice cream, I don't serve the ice cream at the table with everything else. But certainly when they were smaller, so on during the week, they like dessert is chocolate, like dark chocolate. And so we just serve the dessert. Their chocolate allocation goes on the table with the rest of the food. And for many years, like Finbar would eat his chocolate first and it'd be like, fine, if that's what you want to do, great. If you like, totally fine. There's no more chocolate after this. Like we've got a boundary around it. But yeah, like letting them have the dessert and not going, oh, you have to eat these vegetables or you have to finish everything on your plate before you're allowed this treat of dessert. Like just having like, yep, dessert, chocolate is part of our life and this is your allocate, this is your bound, like that's your amount and it's up to you when you have it as part of your meal. And yeah, that feels really good. And interestingly now, like Fergal, my 12-year-old, he doesn't have chocolate every night. Like he's getting more like body image aware. And so he'll be like, yeah, most nights actually these days he doesn't have chocolate. So yeah, but if he wants to, he can totally. But most often he's not these days. Okay, and I think that's great because he's regulating himself, right? I haven't forced any of that on him. So that's really cool. So, yeah, letting them have dessert first if they want to. Next weird way is that I alluded to when I was talking about nutrition is that we don't moralize food in our house. So we don't talk about good food, bad food. And we don't talk about we've been bad if we eat brownies. So this is all food is part of our lives and there's value in all food. And my Irishman's mom, their grandmother, she'll send over when it's their birthday, she'll send over all this junk food from Ireland, like chips and whatever, like we call them granny snacks. And the boys love them and that's part of their life. Are we having granny snacks every single day? No, but we're having them. And am I saying, oh, you shouldn't be having these, they're bad for you? No, yeah, of course, like life includes some granny snacks. It also includes some apples and that's part of it. So I'm not telling them that apples are good and that granny snacks are bad. All food is food. And that connection that we have with granny when she sends over, it's such a special thing. And that's super valuable, just as valuable as the nutrients that you get from having an apples, right? So let's not deny ourselves that. And the other reason I think this is so important is because when we moralize food, when we have these good food, bad food thing going on, it actually increases the desire for the bad food because, oh, I shouldn't be having this. It just creates that shame and that guilt and that reason to sneak eat. Like it just causes a really messed up relationship with food. So yeah, no food moralizing. It's just like all food is food. Some foods like make us feel better. Some food, like sure, like if I have a lot of sugar, I might feel different to if I have a big bowl of broccoli, but and some protein, like right. And I can just like gauge that and find balance with it, right? It doesn't mean that I never have sugar and it doesn't mean that I always have broccoli. So, okay, number 5 is sitting down to eat and turning off distractions. So this used to drive me crazy is particularly when they were preschool age, we'd be with friends and their parents would be just feeding the kids all the time and they'd be walking around dropping food all over the house and I'd be like, oh, no. So from very small, no eating in the car. If we're eating, we sit down. And even say Finbar's decided he wants a snack before dinner and I'll get him to serve it out, sit down at the table or at the kitchen bench and eat it rather than going on his device and having it while he's having screen time. Like no distractions and we're generally sitting down when we eat. And the reason for that is if you're doing other things when you're eating, you're not focusing on the food. So you're missing out on the enjoyment, but also and you're making a mess in the house, which you're obviously not a fan of that. But also, so you're missing out on the enjoyment. And also it's harder to tune in and listen to your body if you're playing a video game while you're eating something, right? So just having no distractions, sitting down and focusing on the food gives you that enjoyment piece, but also makes it easier to listen to your body and get the quantity piece right. Okay, number 6 is no forcing them to try things. So I don't know if this is a great strategy or not, to be honest. So many will have friends over and their children seem to be much more adventurous eaters than mine. And we will never know if that's because of their nature or because of nurture. But I feel like my gut feeling is me forcing them to try, you know, try vegetables when they're not open to it. If you just how psychology works, if you're thinking, I'm going to hate this, then invariably you're going to hate it, right? That's just how our brains are so powerful in determining. I guess it is possible that you're thinking I can hate this, and then you're like, oh, actually, that's pretty delicious. Like it could happen, but generally it's not going to, right? So rather than push and make it this big battle, I'm just sure I'm serving myself these amazing vegetables. If anyone would like some, they're welcome to. Maybe actually I should do the reverse psychology of no Brussels sprouts for you. These are only for the adults. And maybe that would be better. I might have to look at implementing that strategy. But yeah, so I don't force them. And I do have friends that force their kids to try everything, and they do seem to be more adventurous eaters, but this has been my policy for a while, and so I don't think. Yeah, I'm happy to stick with that for now. I don't want to start forcing them. It doesn't feel good to me in my heart. And then the seventh weird way I'm raising healthy eaters is I'm teaching them how to cook without recipes, which is so fun. So what we've been doing this year is one night a week each they get to choose what we're having for dinner. And so pretty much every week, on Finbar's night, it's pasta. Although he is mixing it up, we're having different types of pasta, which is great. And then Fergal my older one, he likes to try different things, but they get to choose what we have. And then, of course, I adjust that for me. So if Finbar's been on a bit of a bolognese thing, so we've been making bolognese in the slow cooker. And then, of course, they're having it with spaghetti, but I'm having mine with whatever vegetables, or I'm having it with tofu sometimes, whatever vegetables I want to have. Sometimes it's like some roast cauliflower. I think last time I had broccolini. So yeah, it's serving, or kale, serving the sauce. So I am cooking something separate for me, but it's not like a whole meal. So yeah, has been really fun. And it's actually like getting them interested in cooking, which is great. And the other cool thing that I wasn't expecting from doing this is that it actually frees up a lot of my mental load, because otherwise I used to be the one that was deciding what we'd have for dinner each night. And so now it's like, oh, it's like a team effort and we're talking about options. And so that's actually feels really good. So yeah, it's like saving me mental energy. So it's like sharing the load that way. And then, yeah, of course, the other cool thing is teaching them to cook without recipes means that we're not having to find the perfect recipe and go through that whole palaver and make sure we've got the ingredients. It's just like, okay, they're like, okay, Finbar's like, I'm going to have pasta. So we know we've got a pasta framework. We know how to make our bolognese. Or if we're doing a cheesy pasta, we know how to do the cheesy pasta. So then they're learning to be intuitive with their cooking from the get-go, which is it's so fun to do. And I'm getting them to taste and see does it need to adjust the seasoning. Yeah. So, and I think having that skill, because like my mom didn't teach me to cook. Like I grew up, she was an amazing cook. And I guess I was at boarding school, and for one reason or another, she didn't really teach me anything. And so I just had to learn by myself from recipes. Whereas these guys are going to have that ability already. They can pull together. Like if Fergal wanted to make tacos, he could just go and make some tacos on his own. If anybody would need a bit of help with his pasta, that they know how it comes together now. So, and as we're doing this more and more, they're going to build their repertoire. So them feeding themselves is going to be easy, which is so fun to know that they're going to go out into the world, knowing how to listen to their bodies, like they're not part of the clean plate club, so they can get that quantity piece right. And B, that they know how to make delicious food for themselves. Like amazing, right? So if you'd like to empower your kids in that way to learn to pull together healthy meals without recipes, and also to use my secret to child labor to make your life easier, actually, because that's another great side benefit is school lunches. So when we cook pasta for Finbar, we make a big batch and then like get them to pack up the school lunches. So they're having spaghetti for school lunch. It's so good. So it really does make your life easier. And also, they also have an appreciation now about the effort that goes into making healthy meals. So I feel like they're more appreciative of, on the nights that I'm cooking by myself, that they value, and so they're less likely to screw up their nose of whatever I'm putting on the table. So there's so many benefits from doing that. So it really does make life easier. So if this is sounding good, then come and play with us in Joyful Cooking for Kids. So I'm actually running for the first time ever specific joyful cooking class that's geared towards kids and teens. So in the past, I have had people do my joyful cooking program with their kids, but this class, we're actually, the frameworks and the lessons are going to actually be geared to the things that my boys love. So if that sounds good, then check out the link in the show notes so you can learn more. Okay, have a beautiful week, and I'll catch you next week.